Hello and welcome back to vSphere ICM, and we're in Lab 7. And in the previous video we created a standard switch. In this video we're going to create a distributed switch. Now a distributed switch has some of the capabilities of a standard switch, but one of the main differences really is that it lives through vCenter across multiple ESXi hosts. Meaning this allows us to have one switch that spans all of our ESXi hosts, which allows for some additional functionality, one of those being the ability to move both the virtual machine and its port from host to host, which is something that you cannot do with a standard switch. You can't move the port with that. So we can take a look in here. So in this task, when we create the distributed switch, it's going to function as a single virtual switch across both our ESXi1 and ESXi2 hosts. So we're going to go back to that networking tab in the inventory pane. And from there, we're going to go ahead and right click on the training data center and select distributed switch. So notice that we're not assigning this switch to a specific host, because this is going to be living in vCenter itself. Even though the switches themselves will be functioning on each host, it is through this functionality of the vCenter that we'll be able to create this distributed switch. So let's do that now. So here we are back in vCenter. So let's go back to home and then hosts and clusters. And from here, we'll go ahead and click on the networking tab in the inventory pane. Now we've exposed that, you can see that we have the test VM 01 connected to the production standard switch, and we also have the VM network switch, which has several virtual machines connected to that. And again, since this lives on the vCenter, this distributed switch, we'll go ahead and select that training data center, right click and select distributed switch, and we want a new distributed switch. We're going to get the wizard here, and on this name and location page we want to enter the name of this switch, and this distributed switch we're going to call this IP-DVA. And then we'll go ahead and click on Next. We have different distributed switch versions. We're going to select the highest version, which is 6.0. For backward compatibility, you see that you can select different versions. Here's one for 5.5, for 5.1, all the way back to 5.0. So you notice that before 5.0, we did not have the ability to create one of these distributed switches, at least not supported on here. So we've got 6.0. This is going to provide additional functionality. It's going to give us the network I/O control version 3 and IGMP MLD snooping, which has a lot to do with our VLANs, multicast. Let's go ahead and select the next button, and in there we're going to make sure we have the correct settings here. So we need to specify the number of uplink ports. The uplink ports are what it's going to connect the distributed switch to the physical port on the host. So we're going to go ahead and set this to 1. So we'll roll this down to 1. And then the network I/O control, we do want to make sure it is enabled. Notice that we could choose disabled on there. So we want to enable the network I/O control. And then we want to make sure that we're creating a default port group, and we're going to set the default port group name, and in this case we're going to call this IP-PG-production. Okay, double checking the spelling on that, and we'll go ahead and press the next button. All right, so we get a little review here. So you can see the name of the distributed switch is IP-DVA, and the version is 6, 1 uplink port. We do have the network I control, and our port group is going to be IP-PG production. All right, let's go ahead and hit the finish button here. Let's verify that we have our new IPDVS distributed switch. So if we could take a look over here, I said DVS, excuse me, it's DVA. So go ahead and select that. And if you take a look down inside of here, you can see that we have the IPDVA uplinks 82 and IPPG production port group. So there's our uplink port group and our distributed port group. And if we take a look here, we get a nice description. So the uplink ports, they connect the distributed switch to the physical NICs on the associated ESXi hosts. So those number of uplinks on the distributed switch, that's the maximum number of allowed physical connections to the distributed switch per host. So this is a per host. And then we can take a look at this one here. This is our distributed port group. So that's a port group associated with the distributed switch that specifies the port configuration options for each member port. So when you think about the ports, really you're setting up configuration options on those port groups. And that just makes it a lot easier to manage that. Okay. Okay, in the next step, we're going to attach the ESXi host to the distributed switch. So we have a distributed switch that's living in vCenter, but what we need to do next is attach both the ESXi1 and the ESXi2 host with their physical adapters to the IP. I named mine DVA. You can see it's named DVS in here, so there's just a little variance on that. That won't affect anything. This is going to act as a central interface for configuring, monitoring, and administering our virtual machine switching for our data center. So you can see here, we'll be selecting that distributed switch and we'll select add and manage hosts. So let's do that next. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select add and manage hosts. And you'll see we get the add and manage hosts wizard here, or this pane. So what we're going to do is add the hosts. So you can see those are our tasks. But notice we can also manage our host networking. We can also remove hosts, and we can add host and manage the host networking at the same time. So we're going to leave it set to add hosts and click next. And on the select host screen, we can see that we can click on the new host link here. And what we want to do is select all of our hosts. So we'll go ahead and click on those. Do notice that we have a little eye here that would indicate that we have an incompatible host, but all of our hosts here are compatible. So that doesn't pop up on us. We'll click the OK button here. So you can now see that our two hosts, 1 and 2, have now been added. Let's click the next button here. Now if you take a look here on the select network adapter task page, we're going to deselect the manage VM kernel adapters checkbox. Okay. So this would allow me to add or migrate VM kernel network adapters to my distributed switch. What we're going to do instead is we're going to manage the physical adapters. So we add the physical network adapters to our distributed switch. And we're going to assign them to uplinks. So we assign the physical adapter to an uplink on our distributed switch. You can also remove existing ones from here. Let's click the next button. All right. In this screen here, on the Manage Physical Network Adapters page, we're going to select VM NIC2 adapter. So if you look under ESXi1, and then you can see the VM NIC2. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and I can then click on the Assign Uplink. See that? So by selecting this particular adapter, this VM NIC, which is the physical adapter on ESXi1, I'm going to click on the Assign Uplink button. Now in the next step, I make sure that uplink 1 is selected because that's what I'm going to be assigning to the VM NIC. And then I'm going to press the OK button. Okay. so now you can see that VMNIC2 has been assigned to uplink 1. And there's your uplink port group, IPDVA, DV uplinks 82. Now we'll select uplink 1. Excuse me. Now I said that wrong. Now we're going to go down to ESXi 2 and we're going to select VMNIC 2. Sorry about that confusion there. And we need to do the same thing. So we're going to click on the assign uplink. Make sure that we assign this to uplink 1. Click the OK. All right, so now we've assigned VMNIC 2 to uplink 1. So we have both VMNIC 2 on ESXi 1 assigned to uplink 1 and VMNIC 2 on ESXi 2 assigned to uplink 1. That's a port group, right? Remember, this is all virtualized when we're talking about uplinks. Those are software ports. These are the physical ports on different hosts. All right. Let's click Next. All right. On the Analyze Impact page, notice the note of no impacts. So there are no impacts, no problems. All right. So we're in good shape on this. That simply means that we're good to go. Okay. And let's go ahead and hit the next button. On the Ready to Complete page, we're going to click the Finish. Okay. Now, we can see that over here on the side, the tasks have completed. And if we take a look here in the summary, there's our uplinks. And we have 2 hosts in this distributed switch. So it's very clear that we've already configured this. Okay. I'm going to leave off on this video and we'll come back and wrap up with examining the distributed switch configuration and migrating virtual machines. See you in the next video.